The Richard Roeper Show is brought to you by AmericanEagle.com Studios. The digital landscape is changing rapidly, and to compete in today's online business environment, you need an experienced partner. Since 1995, AmericanEagle.com has partnered with companies of all sizes, offering web design, web development, e-commerce, mobile apps, and digital marketing, all to drive your overall business's success, because they believe that today's online world is your online opportunity. Visit AmericanEagle.com to get started today. AmericanEagle.com, AmericanEagle.com. We are in the AmericanEagle.com studios with a legend, Bonnie Clevering. Welcome.
Oh, thank you, Richard.
I'm going to read something from your book, Continuity, which is a work of art. But just so people know, Bonnie is one of the most accomplished hair artists in the history of the business. Continuity by Bonnie Clevering invites readers into the life of the acclaimed and accomplished motion picture hair designer, Bonnie Clevering. Also, Academy member, artist, mother. We're going to talk about the placement of mother in that a little bit later, maybe. And friend, in no particular order. Never before seen images from a personal archive of 18,000 plus photos take readers behind the scenes and into the story of the universal desire for continuity in all aspects of our lives. Okay, Bonnie, first of all, congratulations on a wonderful career, wonderful life, and a beautiful book.
Oh, thank you, Richard.
And for people, and I know we're going to tell people where they can go and get the book. It truly is a work of art. You were nice enough to send me a copy, and the inscription was beautiful. And it's a true coffee table book. It's massive, and yet it's easy to read. You're a wonderful writer, by the way.
Well, thank you.
You share so many stories, but also this is the kind of book that can sit on a coffee table for years. You could start from the beginning, or you could kind of just pick it up and go, oh, I want to read about Aaron Brockovich. I have to read about Bonnie's work on JFK. Oh my gosh, what about working with Kristen Stewart? And this is incredible, folks. Bonnie's career stretches from Elvis Presley to Kristen Stewart. So let me just start off by asking you, why that title, Continuity?
I think also the continuity we have in our life, or we want or should have in our life. Mm-hmm. And continuity also, as a hairstylist in the film business, I had to always make sure there was continuity in the hairstyles. So as if Julia Roberts was outside in the snow or rain, and maybe 2 months later, we're filming the interior of her walking in. So I would always take 4 Polaroids, the front, right, left side, and the back. So that always had to match. And so that's part of the continuity also. And
the continuity of life. Mm-hmm. And as you know, doing what you do, it's the kind of thing, if people notice it too much, it's almost a bad thing, because people, especially in this day and age where everybody's picking apart every single moment of every television series, every movie. When you started in the business, the movie would play in theaters and then eventually maybe get to television. But now it's like, if it's on all the time, people will freeze frame and say, oh, wait a minute, Kristen Stewart didn't have bangs 2 seconds ago, and now she does. So the pressure, but from the start in this job, there's enormous pressure to make sure that the continuity is consistent.
And the continuity of getting along. And when they come in the makeup trailer, at 4, 5, 6 in the morning and work, 12, 15 hours a day, and just keeping the continuity of the personalities and being together.
One of the things I love about your work, and you say I'm not a photographer, but you are. And what we can see, Bonnie, I think, as I was looking through this book, is how much trust you have and you've earned, and you can see it both ways, because we're looking at photos of some of the most recognizable faces of the last half century. And yet, for me, for somebody who's in the business and has met a lot of these folks, I felt like I was seeing them in an unguarded way. They trust you completely. Mm-hmm. Not just because they're making funny faces, but like, for example, Hilary Swank, and I know you have a special relationship with her. I felt like I saw her in a way I've never seen her. 2-time Academy Award winner, but you just see her in her most natural environment. So how do you establish that trust with all of these actors?
I think it's just them knowing me and my personality, and how we all meet someone and we just know there's the warmth there and everything. And I think also there's certain ways that I got the jobs is because of my reputation. And a lot of it starts with the producers too, recommending at the beginning when I wasn't quite as known.
And you talk about it in your book, so we're gonna go way back for a second here, Bonnie. So you and your husband, you make this trek, I believe, from Florida to Glendale, and you set up there looking for work, and we won't go into all the details, but fairly quickly find yourself working with Elvis Presley.
Yes.
And Nancy Sinatra. I mean, these names are insane when I'm looking at these photos of you. And Elvis kind of made you an offer you could refuse. Can you tell that story?
After I did Speedway with them.
Hey, little girl, you're about the wildest thing I've ever seen.
When I'm with you, baby, I'm a loving machine.
Presley and Sinatra have the track to themselves in the racing, rocking throbs and thrills of Speedway.
Come on and sing, sing, sing.
And after Speedway, Elvis had gone to the department head hairdresser at MGM Studios and asked Mary if I could just be on all his films. And at the time, I refused it because I really, deep in my heart, always just wanted to be a mother too. And I knew that would start taking me away. And back then, we didn't do a lot of locations, but that would have taken me away more. So I refused that.
And you mentioned, and Elvis had a self-awareness even then, because he says something along the lines of, I probably should have said no to people a few times in my life, which is sort of the tragedy, I think, because I think when you look at his career, especially with Colonel Tom Parker and the movies even, he couldn't say no to anybody.
No,
and
he couldn't.
Wouldn't put himself first, which you have to do in the business. You also talk, you mentioned in the book, Bonnie, Continuity, by the way, is the book, and it's available now. And I highly recommend it. It's really, and you can just go to Continuity by BonnieClevering.com. Is where people can go and just order it right there. Easiest way to do it. And you mentioned, you've worked with so many stars and people always want to know the dirt. And they're like, oh, who misbehaved? And you're like, I'm not really into that. But you do tell a story about, and this is a movie that has become so iconic because it was so ahead of its time. But you do talk about an experience on RoboCop.
Oh, Peter Weller.
Yeah.
At the beginning, Peter wasn't the greatest guy. He was giving everyone a pretty hard time.
You thought he was RoboCop?
Yeah, he did.
Drop it. Dead or alive, you are coming with me.
So it ended up where he wanted us to do him in his trailer. And back then, we did everything in the makeup trailer. And so the producer said, just go ahead this one time and do it. And then afterwards, they worked it out. But they were thinking of replacing him at the beginning. And then all of a sudden, there is just a switch and the nicest human being there could be. But I walked out of his trailer the first day and I thought, oh, everyone's kissing his butt, because he wants this, he wants that. They're giving it to him. And I walked out of the trailer and there were the Teamsters sitting there outside his trailer. And I started walking and I said, oh, I forgot something. And they said, what happened, Bonnie? What can we do? And I said, I forgot to kiss his ass.
I love it.
But he ended up being a great guy.
I think sometimes too, I know you probably had this experience, I've had too, that sometimes the biggest stars can be the nicest and can be the most, because they've made it and they know who they are. And sometimes people who are up and coming or a little insecure can be more difficult. And one of the things I love about your book is it's what we want to believe about a lot of these actors that we love. So I know you for those of you listening right now, Bonnie's got a bracelet from Brad Pitt on her wrist. But you talked about, he's the sweetheart, right? You love working with Brad.
One of the kindest persons on the face of the earth. Brad's fabulous.
And Ocean's 11, George Clooney.
Oh yeah, George.
And one of the things I love about your photos too is there's a time capsule element, because we're seeing, obviously by the time Oceans came out, George and Brad were big stars, but they're kind of at the beginning of their superstardom. So you still see them. You're capturing these, these great actors at certain moments in their careers. And another thing I love about this is that, you talk about being a mom, you talk about, kind of establishing a rapport, and you're something of a pretty good cook too. And that plays into it sometimes, right?
Yes. And fortunately, Stephanie, even Stephanie Powers back in the days loved to cook. And, but all my girls, Kristen Stewart loves to cook and is an excellent cook. Julia Roberts and Hilary Swank. When we went and did a film in Louisiana, Hilary said, I want you to stay in the guest house because while we're here these 3 months, I want you to teach me how to make every single pie.
Oh, wow.
And so we made pies. And then, of course, Julia's favorite was sausage biscuits and gravy. And on Oprah's show, Oprah kind of looked at her because she, had such a fabulous body and said, and I understand you like sausage biscuits and gravy. And Julia says, oh, Oprah, my friend Bonnie makes the best.
Ah, nice. Yeah. Oh, she's a Georgia girl, right,
Yeah.
Julia? So, of course she would, right?
Right.
All right, let's talk a little bit about Portillo's. They're known, of course, for their famous Chicago hot dogs with all the freshest and tastiest ingredients, right down to that famous poppy seed bun. Then we have to talk about the legendary chocolate cake. And everybody knows if you've ever been to Portillo's, but if you don't, you never put the cake in the fridge. You have to have it at room temperature. That's how it's delivered to you or handed to you in the restaurant. That's the way you have to taste it. And, of course, the menu has everything from the char-broiled burger to Italian beef, to some really good chopped salads. But, oh, that chocolate cake, I'm telling you. Now, there are locations throughout the Midwest and in Florida, California, and Arizona. But you can also ship Portillo's anywhere in the United States of America by ordering at portillos.com. That's PORTILLOS.com. PORTILLOS.com. I get the feeling, too, that there's some, that you love working with a lot of these folks through the years, Bonnie, but certain actors and people have special places in your heart. And I feel like that's the way with Julia and with Aaron Brockovich, the film, because that's in the book continuity. There's this sort of constant thread. And when people think of Aaron Brockovich, of course, one of the great films of the last 30 years, Academy Award winning performance. But when we think of Aaron, and I've had a chance to meet the real Aaron Brockovich, and then you realize how great Julia is, because it's not an over-the-top performance. She might have brought it down a notch compared to how Aaron really is. But one of the first things I think people think about is the hair.
Let's be honest here. $20 million is more money than these people have ever dreamed of.
Oh, see, now that pisses me off. First of all, since the demur, we have more than 400 plaintiffs, and let's be honest, we all know there are more out there. They may not be the most sophisticated people, but they do know how to divide, and $20 million isn't shit when you split it between them.
Aaron.
Second of all, these people don't dream about being rich. They dream about being able to watch their kids swim in a pool without worrying that they'll have to have a hysterectomy at the age of 20, like Rosa Diaz, a client of ours, or have their spine deteriorate like Stan Bloom, another client of ours. So before you come back here with another lame-ass offer, I want you to think real hard about what your spine is worth, Mr. Walker. Or what you might expect someone to pay you for your uterus, Miss Sanchez. Then you take out your calculator and you multiply that number by 100. Anything less than that is a waste of our time.
The hair's like a character in that. So can you talk a little bit about, because there's, I don't know, dozens of photos of Julia and you working on her hair through Aaron Brockovich. Can you talk a little bit about that experience?
Yep. Well, we needed to have a very natural look. And fortunately, Julia had natural curly hair. So there was just, even when we had to have her go to court and try to have her look a little more ladylike, we pulled the hair back a bit. And but throughout the whole thing, the continuity was difficult because of the natural curl. Not every day the curl would stay like it would have been 2 weeks ago when we shot the interior or the exterior. So it was a little more difficult, but manageable. And, she's so great to work with, too.
And I think when people think about hair work in the movies, we immediately think about the women, but it's just as important for the men, right? I mean, in some cases, even more so, because again, you don't want to notice it too much. And sometimes you'll see a period piece and you're like, oh gosh, the hair work on that. Look, it's so clearly not their hair. So can you talk a little bit about the challenge of that? Because maybe you have less hair to work with, which might put more pressure on you to get it exactly right.
Well, and I think with Brad, before he did Mr. and Mrs. Smith, he did the Troy movie. So he had all those braids and wigs and everything. So I had put together this beautiful book of every film practically that Brad had done, because he always used to like to have something different each time. So I was going to present this to him during, our prep time. And so I had this beautiful book done, and he's going to come to the makeup trailer and talk to Jean Black, who's my dearest friend, who's been Brad's makeup artist from day one. And so he walks in the makeup trailer, and he's got a crew cut. The night before, he had Jennifer, hairstylist, just cut all the everything off. And so I thought, well, there goes the book. There's, I don't have any choice. I mean, what can I do with the hair?
You have an unusual problem, Jane. You obviously want me dead. And I'm less and less concerned with your well-being. So what do? We shoot it out here? Hope for the best?
Well, that would be a shame, because they would probably ask me to leave once you're dead.
He is kind of quiet, and he said, "How fast does hair grow, Bonnie?" And I said, "Brad,
not a chia pet.
We're filming in 2 weeks. You might get 1/4 of an inch if we're lucky."
Oh, wow.
And so my job was just keeping the clipper cut, in continuity and everything. So it was like hot towels and massaging the head and massaging his shoulders, because I didn't have much hair work to do.
And we go all the way. We started off by talking, Elvis, and you've worked with Kristen Stewart, who, and the photos are amazing. Because again, this is somebody, and the pressures on her when she was so young, and those Twilight movies came out, and not just the movies, which were, huge hits, but there was so much pressure because millions of people loved the books and they had their idea of what the characters, but then she's got this relationship going and everybody's in her face. And I think she got unfairly kind of labeled as, someone who, and I don't want to say difficult, but wasn't always forthcoming. But the photos that you have of her, you see, first of all, this very young person with the weight of the world on her shoulders. But it just seems like she completely trusted you and you had this great relationship. And just looking at the photos, we look at her in a different way. Can you talk a little bit about working with her?
Yes. I'd gotten the call from a producer that I had worked with before, and they were up in Canada. They'd already started filming Eclipse. And before Eclipse, she did the Joan Jett story, and she had told the producers. That's right. It's
a good film that people forget that she was in that.
Right. Yeah. And she did a good job in that. So what happened is she told the producers in advance she was going to cut her hair, dye it black, so they'd have to have a wig. So anyway, they built a wig for her, beautiful hair lace wig. And they started filming, and they were into it at least 2-3 weeks. And this producer called me and knew, because I loved working with these fabulous wigs, is Bonnie, you've got to come up here. We've got to do something, either change this wig somehow or have another one made. And I said, what is the makeup and hair department going to say? All of a sudden, this girl's coming in. And so I said, you get back to me. Well, I had worked with Al Pacino up in Vancouver. And so he got back on the phone. He said, "Oh, they're so glad you're coming." Now, I don't know if it was because I was saving their butt or because they just liked me so much. And so I had to sit for hours and look at all the footage they had filmed and then try to match. But they ended up having to reshoot some stuff. It cost them, I was told, $1 million to change
easily. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Bonnie to the rescue. The book is called Continuity. Go to Continuity by BonnieClevering.com. It is such a pleasure and a privilege to talk to you. Thanks so much,
pleasure,
Bonnie.
Richard. My pleasure.
Thank
you.
All right, that's going to do it for the Richard Roeper podcast. Thanks to all for listening, and we'll see you around the bend.